Hello, folks.
Hi, we're back.
It is Love Month, and today we're talking about self-love. And we brought two very polar opposite human beings on the podcast today to talk about their relationships with themselves, how they formed, how they've been working on them, and they're going to share any of those tips and trials with you guys today to help you work on your relationship with yourselves to encourage self-love, which we all could probably use a little work on.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have Annisa and Leesha here today, two badass babes that I love very, very much. And we're just going to get into it. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
So the reason why we chose these two fine young women, can I call you young women?
I mean, she's like, yes.
These fine young women because they both love themselves. They both share the journey of learning to love themselves, but they do it in two completely different ways. And so that's what we wanted to bring today, is to show those two different roles. You can still love yourself, they're just different, and there's different ways to get there, and that's okay.
Well, and with Annisa specifically, it was almost like she was born feeling this great amount of self-love, whereas Leesha has had to kind of hone it and create it in her life. So we're just representing two separate journeys. Yeah, like some people, it just comes naturally to them to love themselves. That doesn't mean that it's always easy. And then other people, it's not something that you're necessarily born with, but you can create it.
Right. So, whichever one of you wants to jump in first and kind of share your journey, I guess, and how you got there.
Yeah, give us a brief intro on how your journey with self-love has gone, and challenges maybe that you've had, or no challenges, or whatever the case may be.
Nis, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So self-love is something that I didn't really understand at all for the longest time. And I, over the last year, have just been going through my own journey of trying to figure out, who I am and what self-love is and everything like that, because growing up, I know my mom did the best that she had, did the best that she could with what she had, but growing up I felt like I had to be in control of my own life because there wasn't much structure or guidance. So the lack of authority meant that I didn't learn self-love through nurturing and encouragement. I had to teach it to myself. While that sounds kind of empowering, in some ways to rely on your own decisions, it left me feeling a little isolated and unsupported. And so self-love in my earliest form was survival. And I carried that thought about self-love with me until last year, probably, is that it was survival. So self-love is a very, very personal journey, and if you're not really shown it and taught it at a young age, then you turn it into something else, and then you kind of you cradle that and then live your life by that until you learn how to do it differently. And so I've been trying to evolve it from it being purely functional, self-love being functional, into something intentional as I've grown and healed.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
I resonate a lot with you on the self-love. When we were aligning a lot of the things that you said, even, I was like, yes. Because, I wasn't taught. I was the latchkey kid. So I wasn't taught how to do, anything. I think we can kind of all relate to that, actually.
Yeah.
As part of the generation.
We didn't even have keys, so...
the damn door wasn't even locked.
The door was not locked.
So anyway, Annisa, share with us your kind of take on your self-love journey.
I think so. We had a kind of similar upgrowing, and with our parents and everything, and the way we were kind of raised. And so I think we do have some similarities there. I think the only difference for me was that at the time, I didn't know that it was self-love. I was the youngest, and in some aspects, I had everything handed to me because she was like, you're the baby, like, here, do whatever you want. But in other aspects, it was like, you're my last one. I'm going to get this right. Like, something's got to give. And so I think when it came to self-love, it wasn't really so much knowing it was self-love. It was just kind of like dredging through it all and going, why am I swimming through all of this mess? Like, let's get rid of all of this. Let's push everything else aside and make sure that I'm focusing on me and not what everybody else wants for me. And it became almost a selfish aspect in myself so that I could work on me and be a part of my life and not have everybody else tell me what I'm doing or how I'm going to live. And that's kind of where it started and where I honed in. Kind of just dug my feet and was like, this is what's happening.
It's kind of like a blessing of the youngest child. Like, everybody loves you, everybody spoils you. So you're like, well, duh, of course I'm lovable. I'm wonderful. Everybody has treated me that way my whole life. You know? Like, in the one way, I feel like the youngest people in families do have, like, kind of an advantage as far as learning to love themselves, because they have a tendency to be more spoiled. Not in a bad way. Like, I'm not saying you're like a spoiled rotten booty hole or anything, but you were doted on a little bit because you were the baby, you know? Also, Annisa is my sister, so just for reference.
I also think that I've been told so many of my friends, probably 90% of my friends are into astrology. And they've told me over and over again that I am the most Leo of all the Leos that they have ever met. And I think my self-love comes from that too, my natural confidence in my sign. And so I think that also plays a part in my ability to kind of just push through and be who I am.
That leads me to the next question I had, which is, how do you think self-love and confidence are created? Like, Leesha, you touched on it a little bit with, you have this assumption that it comes from your parents and how you're brought up at an early age, having like structure and being shown by example, like how to love yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you think you'd add to that?
It starts there. I don't think it's something that can be taught. I think it's truly like a very personal thing. However, if you're not, nurtured in a certain way, I think that like personal self-love journey kind of gets screwed a little bit.
Okay, so...
But I think, so how it's confidence in self-love, like I said, again, very personal. I think it's very intentional. It's a very intentional practice. And you have to, you have to heal your insides, and recognize your flaws and your inherent worth. But some of the ways that I've been able to create more self-love now than what I had is, through a little bit more compassion for myself, forgiving me for my mistakes and celebrating my small victories, and showing up for myself through journaling, going to therapy, taking care of my body through exercise, and stuff like that. So I think that those are some ways to help cultivate that confidence and self-love.
And then you have the opposite of just like, maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe she's born with it. And I feel like that's like where Annisa sits more.
Yeah.
Is like, she's just kind of born with knowing that. And it's, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong.
I feel like self-love and confidence have nothing to do with each other. I feel like you can have all the confidence in the world and go out and look like you're ready to conquer everything while your self-love is dying on the inside.
That's fair.
And so I feel like you equally have to work on both to feel like you're succeeding or to feel like you're doing what you want to do. Like you don't want to push your self-love aside and feel terrible, but you also can't not be confident about it at the same time. And so you kind of have to put them on like a balance scale and and work on them both equally, because they're not related and they don't correlate.
I guess too much of something is too much of something can be a bad
Too much
thing.
of a good thing is a bad thing.
That thing, yep. And so I'm thinking that with the confidence scale, you know, you could eventually use confidence as like a negative coping skill.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
super confident.
it could be a
and I'm going to
Band-Aid.
show the world that I'm
Yes,
super
Band-Aid.
confident, but also I hate myself on the inside.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a valid point. I didn't really think about that. Mm-hmm. I think I fall somewhere in between the two of you, where I feel like some of it is natural, where I feel like, you know, the way you're raised can either nurture or not nurture your self-love relationship with yourself. But I also feel like you do grow that over time. And I would say a majority of older people have talked about how as they get older, they like themselves more and they stop caring as much what other people think. So in one way, I feel like self-love is like an older people's, like in an older person's wheelhouse. Like, I don't feel like most young people are going to like really truly love themselves. I think that's more rare. Like, Annisa, I feel like you really truly love yourself and have since you were little. But I don't feel like that's the norm. I feel like the norm is people don't super love themselves because they're not really sure who they are yet and they're trying to figure all that out. Mm-hmm. And as they get to grow and know themselves more, they start to appreciate the wonderful things about them and care a little less about the outside world and what they think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Is that bringing anything up for you?
I mean, I really think of our kids because we all have, you know, around the same age children, and I think of our kids with the realm of social media and how terrifying that is, or you know, because we've all watched our children like grow through their own journeys and stuff like that, and they're all different and unique kids, and them finding their self-love plus the whole aspect of like social media, and
I feel like it's the same, aspects. You know, like it's just enhanced. Like social media just enhances the fact that all of these kids are competing with each other, trying to fit in, trying to be
It makes
cool,
it more
liked.
prevalent.
But I feel like it's the same game, just the rules have changed. Like now it's all on social media, now it's
There's
recorded, now there's video.
Yeah.
Now if you post a video, it's forever. But I feel like the pressures are still the same. Like to fit in and to be liked with each other.
I just think it's more prevalent in their faces if they allow it to be, I guess, or we allow it to be as parents.
Leesha, you look like you have a thought.
Oh no, I just don't. With having two boys, being on social media hasn't really affected like how they see themselves. Like as far as I can see yet. So I don't relate.
I think boys are different too.
See, I have a girl. You guys have both boys and girls, so I guess I see the more girl aspect of things and her struggling with that. Yeah.
I think I would struggle way more if I had social media in my hand from the time I was 10, truly.
Yeah. Same.
The comparison to always trying to be like the people you see on TV and everything.
Yeah.
I think my daughter's a little bit of a weirdo, though.
To like delete, you know, things that make me feel like not worthy. So I'll just delete people. So I at least have like that sense of like I'm not going to sit here and compare myself to someone and you know feel this envy. Instead, I'm just going to you know get rid of it and kind of do my own thing. So
we touched a little bit of this on the alignment session when we got together. Mm-hmm. Like Leesha, you're like a beautiful. Not like I say like a lot. I really got to stop doing that. You are a beautiful woman. And most women are actually intimidated by you when they meet you because you're so pretty. And it's interesting to me, and I want to point it out for the purpose of there's a lot of beautiful women in the world that still don't love themselves and are still comparing themselves with other humans. And I wonder if you could touch on that a little bit, what your journey has been like with that, and why do you think that is? Like, the whole world is shouting at you how beautiful and wonderful you are, but that's not really like self-love. Self-love is more internal. It's more what you think of you and not what the other people are telling you are, even if those are really beautiful, wonderful things they're saying. Can you touch on your journey with that?
Yeah, I don't know. It is weird because even my mom has always, you know, complimented my my looks and stuff like that. And I think it's like nice to hear. It's kind of it's falling on deaf ears nowadays because when somebody calls me pretty, I just really I want to be complimented like for my inside stuff. However, yeah, I don't know. It's been hard because then I do have these people in my life that will tell me how pretty I am, and but I don't feel that way inside. I don't. So it just, thank you, thank you for.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
me.
I guess. Yeah.
That's really sweet. I think that everybody has beauty. I really, really do think that everybody has beauty. Some beauty just, is on the outside, and you have to get to know people to learn their beauty on the inside. And which, I think that maybe I haven't been given the opportunity for people to get to know me on the inside, because of maybe the outside appearance.
They see how pretty you are and they think that
That's it. She's
I don't need to
girl.
look further. She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holly's been through some of that you've been through some of that in your past.
What do you mean?
How circa 2019, 2020.
I like how you phrased it like that, circa.
When you were going through your divorce, I remember having this conversation with you about how you're like, it's easy for me to get a guy.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
easy. It's easy for me.
Because I'm very charming when I want to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is easy. But
yeah.
I want, even right now when my current partner will be like, you're so pretty. And I'm like, I'm so much more than pretty. That's the least important thing about me. I honestly, when somebody tells me I'm pretty, I'm like, oh, like Leesha said, thanks. But literally,
But why am I pretty?
least important thing about me. I'm freaking brilliant. How about you talk about that? How about you talk about how cool my brain is?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I was just thinking of that time because of the growth that you've made
Yeah.
through saying that and then where you're at today. So
I had my journey was similar with Leesha's, where I didn't really have a relationship with myself. It was survival. So I've sort of put myself on an accelerated course to self-love, and I've been very determined and unstoppable about it. And I've really, really focused on it for a long time. I feel like it's been my number one goal for a really long time. So I feel like I've made a lot of headway in that department just because it's been something that's been so important to me. And then having a daughter, you bring up all of the things that you thought were wrong with yourself growing up really come to light when you have children. And specifically me for bringing another female into the world, I really, really found it important to work on that for myself so that I could give her a means of loving herself. And she does, man. That child, she's like Annisa, born loving herself. She's a little weirdo, and she's like, yep, weirdo, love myself. Yeah. So that was really important to me.
I think your daughter's confidence has sparked confidence in my daughter. I don't think if Ella was friends with Kyrie, she would be the same person. Kyrie has an impact on people.
Yeah, because she shows you, it's an example of you can be a weirdo and love yourself and not care what people think.
And that's like you, Annisa. You've had an impact on me because you can just be this vibrant person wherever you are, whoever you're with, and just let that.
She lets her flag fly.
Let your Annisa shine everywhere you go, and it's just with confidence, and I'm just like, wow.
Let's touch on that
a
little bit.
Too much, go find less.
Let's touch on that a little bit, Annisa. Do you feel like we did talk about in the alignment that loving yourself and being born with that doesn't mean that you never doubt yourself or have insecurities, right? Mm-hmm. So what is your journey like with that? You do love yourself, and you have this inner belief and care for yourself. And I think that comes across in any of your interactions with people. But what struggles do you have with that? Do you feel like people judge you because you're confident all the time because you love yourself? Do you feel like people are jealous of that?
Yeah, I have a friend. She's currently inside the hotel right now. I'm sitting in a car because I'm on a trip. She told me yesterday, because we were talking about it, that when we first met in school, she thought I was a jerk and that I had this like egotistical self-righteousness thing going on, and that she was forced to be around me and interact with me because of school and like the things that we had to go through, and that she later realized that it was kind of like that's how I how'd she phrase it, that I kind of like cover myself up, and that's how I present myself, because I am self-conscious and I will always be self-conscious, but I have to show my confidence first, because I do love myself enough to give that part of myself to the world. So even kind of the Marilyn Monroe, like, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best kind of thing. Like, I feel like that comes a lot through with me for like my Leo standpoint. Like, I'm not going to go out and naturally be rude to you right off the bat, but I am going to be confident about whatever situation we're in. So wherever I present myself, depending on the situation, I'm going to hold myself accountable for the way I act, but I'm also going to be confident about it, because I'm here to be me and I'm not here to please you.
And I love that sureness. Like, that's just the word that came to mind, is like the sureness, like, I've had several conversations with you where you're just like, nope, I don't like that. Yeah. You don't have to have an explanation. You're just like, nope.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing. People can take it as a bad thing because of the judgment, or, you know, the assumptions, or, you know, the bias against you. But like, if you pull back and you know that you can allow yourself to do that, and it's not hurting anybody.
I feel like Leesha is similar in that way too, where if she doesn't like something or doesn't want something, she's just like, nope. Like, yeah, I admire that. I admire that in both of you, because I have a tendency to be more of a people pleaser. And in that one way, whether it's because you love yourself and respect yourself, or because you have been taught to protect yourself and protect your own interests first, you both may have different reasons for doing it, but you're both like, nope, don't want to do that. This isn't in alignment with me, and I'm not going to lie to you about it, nor am I going to sugarcoat it. And I like that about both of you.
That's a journey I'm still on.
Same.
I think it kind of relates too to what Leesha said about how, like, some people don't give her the benefit of the doubt and try to get to know her. Like, I'm not going to give you any part of me or show you that softness in my heart until you accept that this is me. Like, I can be pretty, I can be confident, I can be all of these things that you think I am, but I love myself enough to know that this is who I am. You know, like, you have to love me enough to know that this is who I am.
Ooh, I like that. That gave me goosebumps.
I do like that. That's the trust that you're building with a person, though, because every relationship is built on a foundation of trust. And so I feel like once you feel that trust there, then you're like, okay, here's the rest.
I almost feel like that's a way that Leesha has cultivated self-love that maybe she's just not aware of. Like, choosing yourself and standing up for yourself is a way to love yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
For sure.
I think I'm getting better at that, because I think I've welcomed people into my life and let them have, like, see parts of me that, like, I wasn't ready for, just because, you know, or, like, haven't let them see the deeper side of me. But now I'm really, you know, holding stronger boundaries than I did before, and I am able to say no, and it is more of a selfish thing for me, because I'm just like, no, like, I don't want any part of that. So I don't have a problem saying no to friends, to people, to, you know, family, when I don't want to do something. I think that there's a balance, though. Sometimes you do have to do things you don't want to do.
Sadly, yes.
Just because you care about people, right? And I do care about people.
She doesn't want to come to kid birthday parties, but she will come because she knows that we want her to come.
Yes, I try anyway. I do try, but if I know it's, like, at the end of the day, if you guys are gonna get over it, you know, I can say no, and it's gonna be fine.
See, it's the trust thing coming back full swing. Like, you trust your friends enough to allow yourself to be genuine, and I can hopefully put myself in that friend realm. We don't judge you for that, and we'll just be like, cool.
You know what, this isn't something that we talked about before, but I also feel like having female friendships really helps cultivate self-love too. It's different than relationships, like partnerships, and it's different than your relationship with your family. Like, having strong female bonds is significant to self-love because we all shine light on the wonderful areas of each other, and even the not wonderful areas of each other, we're like, so what? You're not perfect? Guess what? Me neither.
Yeah.
And it's like we love you while we're staring at those flaws. We still love each other. And I feel like there's something really powerful about that. It is a lesson in allowing ourselves to be our whole selves and not just the best parts of ourselves. We don't just have to put those best parts on display. Like, we get to be our full messy selves.
Like, you get
and
to
be loved.
You get to cry in a trailer full of boxes in front of your two best friends because you don't know what's happening in your life.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes, we do.
I for sure remember that.
Sorry, Leesha.
Yeah, we cry every time we get together for dinner. Isn't that funny? We're in a public place, we're laughing, and then all of a sudden we're crying. Like, every single time.
But we just create that space for each other to just be able to feel all of the things, talk about all the things, and show all sides of us. So I agree, Holly. Having female friendships really does cultivate a sense of self-love that you don't get in other places. And I'm so, so grateful for our friendship that I'm able to be myself in that space.
Me too.
Agreed.
Let's talk about how our self-love journeys have affected relationships. Like, for example, for me, previous relationships when I did not love myself were not great relationships. And I'm not saying it was only solely for the fact that I didn't love myself, but I allowed a lot of behavior that I wouldn't have. As compared to now, when I'm pretty basically in love with myself. I'm kind of obsessed with myself. And I would not allow the behavior. And I also feel like I've chosen better for myself, and not better as in, like, this is a better human, but better as in, like, more aligned with who I am and what I want. And I feel like I have a capacity for more happiness that I didn't have before because I love myself. And I'm curious how your guys' journey has changed in regards to how you have loved yourself with relationships.
For me, lack of self-love has made relationships very, very challenging. This is a really touchy subject for me, and but it's just been hard for me to let people love me because I don't love myself, or I haven't in the past. So I have a fear of abandonment, and I will, because I don't believe the person, just for reference, I was in a committed, loving relationship with someone for 3 years, and I left because I didn't know who I was, and I couldn't love myself, and so I ended up hurting that person pretty badly because they were just trying to love me, and I was like, well, like, in my mind, like, I didn't believe that, like, you don't know me, you don't love me, because I didn't know me or love myself. And so it's been really, really hard to maintain a healthy and long-standing relationship because of my lack of self-love. And so I'm hoping, I have a great hope for my future, that with this practice of self-love and getting to know myself and my self-compassion, that I can learn to trust other people to love me as well.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and talking about that. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to what you just said.
I know, by a show of hands, with listeners included, who else has totally bombed a relationship because of our lack of self-love.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
You know, so I think it's something that everybody goes through at some point in their life.
The part I really want to highlight there is the fact that you recognize that that has been a problem for you and you're focused on trying to improve it. And that goes for anything in any of our lives. It can't get better until we're honest with ourselves about it and we really put attention on it and try to improve it. And that's not to say it's easy. It's usually the hardest thing you could possibly do. But that it's also the most beneficial.
Yeah, calling your own self out on your own bullshit is really humbling.
Yeah, it is.
And it's hard work to change. You know, when you think about this, we've had patterns and habits and ways of treating ourselves and ways of thinking and neural pathways that have been cemented in there for 3 decades or more. And then you're like, hey, brain, why don't you work a different way now? And your brain's like, what? It takes time to change those patterns and those neural pathways. And it feels foreign. Like, I always think of when you're pregnant or when you have a baby and then you have to do an ab workout for the first time afterwards where the muscles, like, have atrophied and it's painful and terrible and you don't want to do it. Like, that is what your brain is feeling when you're trying these new things that you've never tried. It's
the
like,
train
ew,
on the tracks.
ow, stop. I don't like it. Yuck. Stop it.
Yeah. Like the train on the tracks thing is what I always use for
Like,
that.
it doesn't go.
Like, well, when you're going one way at full speed and then it's like, nope, I want to go this way now. It takes the train a little bit
of time
to stop and then go backwards and
get momentum.
That's kind of like, and then the gears are shifting and things are on fire and that's how it feels.
Let's hope the train's not on fire, guys.
Figuratively.
All right, Ness, what about you? How have your relationships changed? Okay, you were born with self-love, but has your self-love journey changed over time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What way? Answer that question first and then tell me how it's affected your relationships.
Well, like I said in the beginning, that I think my self-love before I knew it was self-love was very selfish. And so I have very much so tried to not be selfish in the aspects of loving myself. And now I feel like self-love is kind of like a bottle or a cup and you have to fill it. And I do different things now and I react to different things now to fill my own cup. And so, like, as before, I would just be like, oh no, me, 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 me. And the more I would think about me, the more my cup would fill. And now I feel like I have a friend who's super depressed. And if she doesn't answer the phone for more than a day and a half, I go beat on her door and her window with coffee and stuff to make breakfast. And I make her go take a shower and get ready while I'm cooking her food in her kitchen. Like, those things fill my cup now. Like, making sure that other people are okay and making sure other people feel loved makes me feel better.
Aw, spreading. You're spreading the
Mm-hmm.
self-love. So, in the relationship aspect of things.
No, we're not editing out your crying.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not. So how have your personal love interest relationships evolved with your self-love journey?
I feel like I'm just, I don't know, I feel like you get better at things, you know? Like, in
God, I
my
hope
old
so.
relationships, I didn't know that I had to, like, set boundaries for myself or anything. I would be like, okay, we'll work on it when we come to that. Like, or if something happens, we'll talk about it and see if we're okay with it. But with my husband, before I even knew that we were going to date, like, we were just friends. And I remember specifically this one time we were walking around the park with his dogs and my kids, just getting to know each other, just hanging out. And we had laid all our stuff bare. Like, this is all the dumb stuff I've done. This is all the craziness that I've been through. Like, shit you wouldn't tell your partner. Shit you would only tell your friends. And, like, just complete transparency. Like, this is who I am. And so I think because of that, and also, like, we laid down demands. Like, this is what I will and will not accept. No questions asked, nothing. Like, if this happens, this is your out. Like, I won't ask you to fix it. I won't ask you for counseling. I will help you pack your bag as nicely as I can, and I will let you live your life. Like, tell me you don't want it, and we'll move on. And so I think with setting those clear boundaries and knowing what people will and won't stand for helps you in your relationship in a more healthy way, because then you don't have to like tiptoe around certain situations. You know, you fuck up, you call them, you're like, hey, I did something stupid. I backed into the truck. I'm so sorry. Like, I did that in my old relationship. War started. I think if I did that now, like when we were moving, one of my friends was helping us move and they busted my husband's window out with putting a mattress in the back of the truck. And I call him and I'm like, babe, I'm real sorry. He's like, what happened? Like, your window shattered. He's like, okay, we'll deal with it later. Like,
That was one of your deal
mindset,
breakers.
you don't have to worry. You don't have to be scared for your relationship over things that you shouldn't have to be scared about.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel like your self-love helped with that conversation with him that day? Because you knew what you wanted.
One, I knew what I wanted, but I don't think I have to be scared anymore. I feel like I love myself enough of us for the both of us.
And you've been so authentically yourself, maybe?
And I love me for the both of us. And so I feel like if, God forbid, if my husband said he wanted a divorce tomorrow, like no questions asked, like, I hope you find your best self. I love you. It's going to suck, but it's not going to break me because I know who I am. And I think he's the same way. Like, if I wanted an out, he would respectfully say, okay. And we would, you know, we have kids together. We deal with kids and we would be respectful and we would be responsible for each other's feelings. And that's just how, I mean, it's part of being an adult, you know? Not everything has to be chaos or the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring up moms now because I feel like you and I,
take a breath.
We do, obviously we share a mother, and our mother was very reliant on men and didn't have a good relationship with herself. So I think that plays into both of our journeys as far as watching someone not love herself and watching her not have proper boundaries. And my brain decided it just wanted to stop working there, so give me a second.
Maybe that's all that you needed to say.
But because of that, we are hypervigilant on if a man decided he didn't want to be in our lives, we'd be okay. Like, we have had to hone personal strength and self-love even before mine was self-love. We had to hone that because it gave us confidence that if something bad happened, as we have seen examples of in our life, that we would be okay.
Mm.
So as far as mothers setting examples for us and how that affects our self-love, I think it can go multiple ways. Like, our mom didn't love herself, and because of that has become important to me to love myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say your answer is on that, as far as like how has mom affected your journey with your own self-love? Or do you feel like she didn't?
I think mom tried to give us the tools for it. I feel like she tried to make us receptive of it, of the fact that she was so vulnerable in that way and that she didn't think she could take care of herself without a man. I think she tried to give us those tools, like, Holly, Annisa, you're beautiful, you're smart, you have all these talents, you don't let a man control you, make sure that you stand up for yourself. Like, she gave us the tools to love ourselves. We just had to at some point start listening. And I think now we look back at like, oh, mom was always like, she always had to be taken care of and this and that, but she did that so that we didn't have to. And I think that was her form of love for us.
I'm going to need a minute. Go to Leesha. How has your relationship with your mom affected your self-love journey?
I think that it's probably the relationship that has affected it the most, just because, you know, childhood really forms like a lot about you that you bring into your adult life and your adult relationships and stuff like that. But I think it was more of because, like, just because I grew up in a chaotic environment with an alcoholic mother and I had touched on this earlier, how I had to be in control of my own life and nobody was there guiding me. So it led me to make a lot of poor decisions in my life. And even I started making very poor choices at a very, very young age. And so, like I said, earliest form of me not even knowing what self-love is was survival. So I was just doing, I was really good at being rebellious, was really good at not caring about authority and stuff like that. And I think that was like me trying to get control of life, like, don't tell me what to do, anybody. Like, and then if you do tell me what to do, I'm going to do the opposite anyway. So it really did just, I know that my mom loved me, and obviously she would tell me that she loved me. She kept a roof over my head, so obviously she, and fed me. So she wanted me to be healthy and living and stuff. So she did, like I said, she did the best that she could with the tools that she had. I don't think I've always looked at it that way, because I really have struggled coming from such a chaotic environment and with no structure. It's been really hard for me to, be a mom as well, because I have a really hard time being structured with my boys and following consistency. But that relationship has really affected a lot as I've grown up and stuff. But so now that I'm an adult, I have to take, my responsibility and my accountability to kind of work through that. But it's been rough. That's been rough. I'm glad that I was able to go through that experience, though, because I don't think I would have as much knowledge and respect for self-love as I do, and how hard it is to cultivate on your own.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot.
Something is coming up in my mind as I hear how very different the story is that my sister has for herself based on my mom's actions and the story that I have running in the background. We had the same mom, but I feel like sometimes it is the story we tell ourselves about our life that has the greatest impact. Like, I feel like, Annisa, you choose to see it one way, and for a long time I chose to see it from a victim mentality, and this happened to me, and she wasn't here for me in this way, and she didn't do this, and for a long time, and hopefully I've been working towards doing the opposite of that, but for a long time I chose to see it in the worst possible light and to paint myself as a victim and all these horrible things happened to me. Whereas you chose to see it as, this is what she did, and because of that, I'm strong. This is what she did, and because of that, she gave me the tools, and I just had to put them in place. And I just want to touch on the fact that sometimes it's not our childhood wounds that are the problem. It's the story we're telling ourselves about our childhood wounds.
Well, the perspective, yeah.
Like, if I could tell myself a more powerful story, that would change the program running in the back of my mind that affects everything, how I look at everything, how I feel about everything, and how I choose to believe or behave.
I just decided, like, 16 years ago when I was going to be a mom, I decided that no matter who I was going to be as a mom, no matter how bad of a mom I was, I didn't want to be the martyr. And so I refused to make our parents the martyrs. Like, no matter what you did, you gave me the tools to either learn from it or grow from it, or hold it and use it in my own toolbox. And I feel like we've got to use that somehow. That's how people grow.
My ego likes to think I'm a lot stronger than you because I'm your big sister, but emotionally you are a warrior, and I just want to point that out.
I'm a mess.
We're all a mess. It's fine.
Edit. Quick question.
Stop saying
Toria-
edit. We're not editing out. You're crying.
No, edit this part. Toria
Oh.
just came to the window and said that checkout is at 10 o'clock and not 11 like she thought. So
Okay.
I'm just wondering how long this is supposed to take because she is packing our room up right now.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll wrap it up because I think we've touched on a lot of the stuff
Yeah.
already.
Okay, so starting here, we'll kind of go into a wrap up. So I feel like we've just talked about such beautiful, wonderful things in relation to self-love. Before we wrap it up, I just rapid fire, if you guys could just, and Leanna and I will do the same, like what have been the tools that you have used in your life, specific tools you've used to work on your self-love? Like what has made the most impact on your self-love relationship?
Leesha, can I go first?
Yeah.
So, we talked about it when we were planning. What did you guys call it? The
Alignment.
Alignment.
The alignment. We talked about the
lineup.
alignment. How I do this thing where when I decide that my brain no longer needs to carry something or it's a weight on me, that I kind of shove it to the other side of my brain and I light that bitch on fire and it's gone and I no longer use it.
Do you imagine
I
that
think that-
actually happening in your brain? Like
yeah,
paper
I do.
moving, sliding to the side, catching on fire.
I picture a janitor in a giant room with a mess on the floor, sweeping everything up with an industrial broom, and him just like dousing it and lighting it on fire. And it's like, I cleaned it up for you, boss. We're good. Have a nice day. Like the whole nine.
I like that.
I love
But
that.
I was thinking, Leesha, I feel like you do the same thing with your real life. Like you're stronger in that aspect because it's not stuff that you think about. But when people are hindering your love for yourself, or if you just decide like, I no longer want to hold space for you, you're rude, I don't need you, what do? You delete them.
Yeah, ruthlessly, without any regret. You're just like, okay, bye, done with that.
Yeah, I feel like that's like another thing that people can do or use in their toolbox. Is like, oh, I no longer need this in my delete. Control Alt Delete, please. Just bye.
I like that. What tools do you have, Leash, for self-love? What has been making the most difference in your life?
Well, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but therapy has been a really great avenue for me to get to learn more about myself, because I think that you have to know yourself to love yourself. I really
1000% agree.
that. And so going to therapy each week and just getting to, see my life through a different perspective and stuff like that. Edit. I couldn't say it before, sorry. Wow. I've been sick. So, therapy, journaling has been great because you get to get out all of the things that are going on in your life, and it's just a really good way to unpack some of that stuff. Exercising has been a good thing. It always makes me feel good. But I think that being like self-awareness has had like a very big impact, because I was so stuck inside this brain of thinking, and then telling myself a story that probably wasn't true. But when you become more self-aware, you get to think about those thoughts. And so I think that has helped me, honestly, the most. And when I had started this whole thing, Holly had given me a book called The Power of Now. And that moment is what really started me to think differently and able to observe my own thoughts. And that really catapulted me into this journey that I'm on now. Because when you can stop identifying with those thoughts that you tell yourself, magical things really do happen. And so out of everything, I think that's probably has the most impact, is just stop obsessing over those thoughts in your head that you tell yourself and those stories that you tell yourself.
What about you, Leanna? You have any self-love practices that you do that are different than any of those?
Yeah, I think just putting myself around the appropriate people and the safe people so I could allow myself to love myself a little bit more. Because that's really made an impact on my journey, is just finding my safe spaces and my safe people to allow myself to grow. So that's been my...
And the only thing I would add, I do all of those things that all of you do, except maybe imagination, lighting things on fire, which maybe I'll try. But I also feel like one of my best self-love practices has been asking what it is that's important to me and what it is that I want to do, and doing those things. I was a champion of everyone else for a long time growing up, and I didn't really know how to take care of myself. Like, I took care of myself from a survival aspect, but not like emotionally. Like, what do you like to do? Like, I think of the runaway bride. How do you like your eggs? I don't know. How are you having them? And I really had to start thinking about, like, what do I actually like? Where do I want to spend my time? What brings me joy? And making time for a lot of those has really helped me feel like I'm important to me. And if I'm important to me, then I want to do this thing for you. For me, you know. Like, if I want you to be happy, then I will devote time to you. And if I'm relating that to myself, like, if I want to be happy, then I need to carve out time for me. And I need to do the things that bring me joy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. Like, we all deserve that. We all deserve to love ourselves and feel important to ourselves.
Yeah, agreed.
Treat yourself like somebody you love, because you should love yourself. You're amazing.
You come first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not in a selfish or jerk way. It's because your relationship with yourself affects all other relationships that you have.
Right.
And you, each one of you that are listening to this right now, are unique and special and important. And there's a reason that you are here on this earth, and you have unique individual gifts that you are bringing to the world that nobody else can bring in the way that you're bringing. And I am glad you were born. And I hope that you are glad you were born.
Well, I'd say that's quite a wrap-up.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you've made it this far to the end, thank you for listening. Thank you, Leesha and Nis, for being here today and sharing and being vulnerable. And, you know, if anybody listening resonates with anything that we've said today, just please leave a comment or email us or private message, whatever.
Or share it with somebody that really needs to work on their self-love journey.
And share it for sure.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Love you, ladies.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.
Don't get off yet.